somebody got caught in the wrong neighborhood, you had to be able to run good or fight good, and I couldn't do either one good.
So,
But anyway,
well, I
remember
grew
the-
up in the country.
I remember the Iceman. Did you have an Iceman come
Oh,
by?
yeah, of course, of course. So you had an ice box. You didn't have a refrigerator. The ice box, and they'd bring these blocks of ice.
5 cents or 10 cents?
And the milkman would come,
Uh-huh.
and you had milk bottles, quart-sized milk bottles that were made out of glass. And if you left them outside, they'd freeze. And, they would pop up and, it would be like, and they were not homogenized. The cream was always on the top.
Yeah.
So
And my mother would pour the, take
you
the
gotta do it
cream
real
off.
quick. It's an art
She'd scrape the cream off.
when it's
Yes,
frozen.
Yes.
That's
Because
smart.
you use that, my father and mother would use that for coffee
For coffee, yeah.
and other things.
Yeah.
I remember, see, my mother, I lived in Baltimore, but my mother was from North Carolina, and my father was from Georgia.
But you all live together.
Yeah, but see, my mother and father met in Baltimore.
Okay.
That's how my brothers and I got there, born in Baltimore.
Okay.
So, but my mother had.
You weren't hatched.
My mother had no, not. I was born on Easter Sunday morning, by the way.
Ooh,
1942.
like the Easter Bunny brought you.
Yeah, except the whole world was slugging it out then. It was World War II. Anyway,
Oh, yeah.
see, my mother still had that Tar Heel accent, that North Carolina accent.
What does that sound like?
Y'all, hey, well, I'll tell you, because the Iceman would come around, and we had a sign that we put in the window.
Iceman coming.
That's right. I had a five on one side meant 5 cents or a 10-cent piece of ice, but she used to say 10-cent piece of ice. And the Iceman, Baltimorean, homegrown yet. So am I, by the way. He wouldn't go with the sign. He would make her say what she wanted, because he wanted to hear her say 10-cent piece of ass. And my mother spent her whole life, the rest of her life, trying to get rid of that Tar Heel accent, and she could never do it. And my daddy, of course, my dad died when I was 13, but he had a slow Georgia. As a matter of fact, when we did something wrong, well, we never really did anything wrong.
Of course.
But he was so slow talking that you boys better stop. Now, if we could make it through the door
Before he finished the sentence.
we were safe. But if we got it all out, we had to turn around and come back. I tell you how it was in those days. Talk about a fight. I was getting ready to duke it out with a dude, a boy. I'm talking about listening to your parents now, especially your mother.
Well, yeah.
And anyway, the kids were all over. We had a big audience. The kids were all around. We were getting ready to really duke it out down on the playground down the street from where we lived. And somebody just about ready. I'm ready to lam into the dude, and he is to me. Somebody came running and said, "Hey, Carl, your mother's calling." Hey, man, we got to stop this. And he understood. Said, "Yeah, well, your mother calls, you go, because she'll be down there." So we postponed that little fight. I don't think I ever did have to fight with him, but I said, "Hey, man, that cool, you know." So I went home and I dropped my switchblade on the way, and
Yeah.
okay.
The picture's frozen. I don't know if they stopped recording or what, but I'm just looking up there and I'm going, all I see is the side of my head. And I thought, where is that camera? I'm turning the wrong way. And I look back and I'm still in the same position. So I don't know what's going on. He
Hey,
wants
hey,
us to
keep going.
going.
Now, okay,
We're-
that's enough.
Look at the other cam.
That's yeah.
We're going to be a
Yeah.
radio show.
Okay.
Okay, no picture. We'll
How about
just keep
you? How
talking.
about something about you?
Oh, well, when we moved into Topsom, the little house we had there, they had just run a wire in for electricity, and there was a light bulb in the living room when you came in, and then you go into the kitchen, and there was another light bulb there, but then there was just a counter and a wood stove, and we had no running water in the house. You had to right then there was a pump on the well, which you had to walk through the backyard and down a hill. And there was a well that was built down by the creek, a little brook that ran through the property. And I was about 3 years old, between 3 and 4. And I remember that first winter, my mother put a driven point in up by the house with an electric pump. Eventually we got water in the house, but I would go down to by the well, and I went down, and with the ice and the snow and the bank, and I tried to get back up, and what ended up happening was I was stuck down there. I'm screaming and yelling, and I'm grabbing a hold of trees and trying to get back up, and I thought I'm going to freeze to death. And eventually, I guess my mother missed me, and I think she threw a rope down the hill because she was afraid to come down because it had been like that rainy snow that freezes, and so it was like glazed ice. And so she, gave me that, and I climbed out, and I got back in the house, and they warmed me up. I was frozen. But it was several years before we got a gas furnace on bottled gas. It was outside. They put the tanks outside, and they cut a hole in the floor, and they set this furnace, type thing. But it was very expensive to run, so we ended up having it off during the night, and in the morning, my mother would turn up the thing, and we'd stand there and try to get warm.
I take it then where you live, you didn't have a streetcar.
No, we were out in the woods.
Well, we used to hop.
Maine.
We used to hop streetcars. Now, anybody remember the streetcars? You've got to be as old as we are, or better. There are.
And they had those in Baltimore.
Yeah, in Baltimore, and they had and streetcars and buses and trolleys. That's three different modes of transportation. I remember I was an exerciser. I remember when I was about 10, 11 years old, and my brother finally paid back some money he owed me. I went up to Sears and Roebuck on a streetcar, and I bought 110 pounds worth of weights, brand new, and their wrappings. And I weighed about 100 pounds myself, so I had this 6-foot bar and these weights that I had that nobody helped me with. I was struggling to get across a very busy street called North Avenue and Greenmount Avenue, and to the streetcar stop. And adults passed me by snickering, and they said, "Look at that!" But nobody helped me.
But did they have any idea how heavy it was? Or?
No, they're just laughing at me.
Well, you were always funny,
when the up in those with a rubber hose. Oh, I'm sorry. Anyway, the streetcar conductor, when the streetcar came, he did come down and help me in with it because you can imagine this little kid, and when I was 11 years old, I looked like I was about 8, struggling to get all these weights on the streetcar to go home. And I sat close to the driver because the seat was available. And everybody's on there snickering. Isn't that cute? So, very cute. Give me a hand. But I did manage to get him home, and that was the beginning of my weightlifting career. Actually, I started weightlifting with a clothes hamper for my bench and an old cigarette stand for my weights until my brother gave me this money. But the streetcars, we used to hop on the back for a free ride until sometimes the conductor would see that, because he was a young kid himself once, so he probably did it too, would try to chase us off. It was a dangerous thing to do because it was electric. If you don't know what a streetcar is, it's a... look on the internet. A difference between a streetcar...
Don't they still have those in San Francisco or not?
Oh, they have the old kind.
Yeah.
And last I knew, Philadelphia had them. I know when I was driving a truck in the 70s, I would block 5th Avenue, 5th Street. Mm-hmm. I know it came down there because I couldn't help but block it off. It was a narrow street. with my tractor trailer until I got the load off, partial load, and the streetcar had to wait. In the meantime, while in the 70s, Baltimore had a streetcar museum. And I said, well, if they have a museum and the streetcars are still operational.
Well, hopefully they're newer
No,
models.
they weren't. They're the same old beat up old. You could tell they were beat up, you know.
Okay.
I mean, you know, running into things over the years. Anyway, and then the trolley was like a bus with two antennas, two overhead wires. They were rubber tires and not the streetcar
Tracks.
metal wheels.
Yeah.
And then they faded out, but we eventually had the buses, gas buses or diesel, whatever they were.
I rode horseback.
Well, we walked everywhere.
Well, my mother had a car, and
We couldn't afford a car.
and I
over
think
here.
on one of the shows I showed how sometimes we'd carry the pony in the backseat of the car. But eventually she got a horse trailer.
We on?
I have no idea.
I don't even know if we're on. We're just rattling on.
Well, they're ignoring us anyway. So are we on or we are? Because we have no pictures, so I have no idea.
That's the difference between she says picture, I say picture. Continue. Picture.
What'd I say?
Hey, look.
Hey, we're on.
How you doing, honey? Good to see you. Give me a hit.
Anyway,
Sarah likes to hit me.
why should I hit you?
Make me feel at home. There you go. There you
All right.
go. Cool. Okay.
Don't hit me back.
I won't even hit your front. I get in trouble. Okay. Now,
Grown.
come on, your story.
Well, I forgot what it was. I was talking about the horses. And,
Yeah.
Yeah. But I really loved the horseback, and I didn't have any desire to learn to drive a car, but my mother, because she was working two jobs, and it was inconvenient for me to not be able to go across town when we had ponies at the drive-in theater or whatever. So she was very anxious, and when you're 15 3/4 or whatever it was, you could get your driving permit and start learning to drive. And then I went for my license, and I was not ready. And my mother, who is hyper excitable, kept pushing me to go. And the first time I went, I was so nervous. And she had an old Dodge with fluid drive that you could leave it in gear and it would shift itself. It was like an automatic, but it wasn't an automatic the way we know it. It still had a gear shift, but you just leave it in gear and it would shift itself.
Well, I remember cars that didn't even have heaters.
But we had, during the driver's test, I had to park on the side of a hill, and he said, and turn it off, put your brake on, which he told me. He said, now put it in neutral. So I put it in neutral. And he said, okay, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and start the car. So I started the car. I let out the brake and, stepped on the gas and rolled down the hill. And I hit the brake, and I said, I kept hitting the gas before. Why am I going backwards? Because I had never shifted gears. And I had forgotten I never put it in neutral. So I was still in neutral. I flunked.
I would think so.
The next
Did you
time
hit
I
anything?
went, I was really a nervous wreck. And I went through everything. I did everything perfect. I'm doing the drive. I did, I parallel parked. I did everything right, except as we're coming back, the car in front of me stopped. And so I went around. There was nothing coming. I went around him. And he said, pull over. And I pulled over. And he said, look back there. What do you see? And I see a lot of bushes. He said, there is a stop sign there. That person was stopping. Well, somebody was getting out of the car, but it was at a stop sign. And when I drove past it, I just...
Through two double lines? You went over the two double lines?
I don't think they had lines then, not up in Maine and those little roads.
Well, you were backwards.
But I never saw the
At
stop
least we had
sign.
lines.
So he said, well, that's a traffic violation and I cannot pass you. Third time I got it.
That's good.
I
That's
think we
good.
probably should do, what is it we do?
I don't know. I'm so mixed up
Daily-
here. Oh, yeah.
Daily stuff.
Okay, let's do something besides
Let's,
talk about the old days.
if we're on, we're on.
We're going to do the Daily Dozen from the defensive exercise series, but I want to explain to you that this is for older people. These are light, easy exercises for people who cannot exercise, don't want to exercise. Either they're, they would like something easy. They're older people. They're in maybe in wheelchairs and they really can't do some of the exercises. Wilhelmina and I both exercise regularly, or heavier exercises than these. So those of you who are our critics out there who say these exercises are
critics?
nothing, no, but we have some.
Oh.
Who thought these exercises were didn't serve a purpose. They do serve a purpose for people who cannot exercise like we do. And this is from a series I call the Daily Dozen. And you know your routine. We're just going to do a couple of repetitions. You do as many repetitions as you want to get in shape with. They're not going to make you muscle bound or bound to get muscles, but they are going to put a shiver in your liver and a pride in your stride. And some of these you can do sitting down. Now, first is the arm swing. Remember this? Yeah, come on, you know.
I have a question for you, though.
Yeah, what?
You said you call it the Daily Dozen.
Yeah.
Did you make these up?
No, well, I made the exercises up, but it comes from the old army when we had daily dozen exercises every morning. Okay, now.
So you just made the whole defensive things up?
Yeah, but I bet there are
So-
exercises. They are.
So
yes.
this is not a,
No,
like a valid,
this is my idea, my brainstorm.
Okay.
I'm the only one to blame for this.
okay.
Next one. Okay. Okay. Next one is a cross to the opposite side. Remember this. Cross your eyes to the opposite side using the heel of your palm, keeping your trunk, your bottom part of your body as straight as possible. This one you could do sitting down. If you wish. Now we're only going to do a few exercises. Remember, right side, left side, one side or the other is one repetition. The next exercise is the arm under your armpit and reaching down with the opposite hand as far as you can and to the opposite side. Okay, now we do here and here. All right, this is the stretch the middle.
It's like carrying buckets of water. It's still.
Well, the way you're doing it is.
Well.
Okay, there you are. Okay, I've got to pick on her because she picks on me, and it's fun, isn't it? And next exercise. Well, okay. Next exercise, the same exercise, okay, but we're using the heel of the palm. Again, this is the weapon. Here we go. Here. All right. You're just going to do a few repetitions. You do as many as you want to. It should be 25, 30, 40, 50, 100, something like that. I do 100 of these when I do exercises as a rest between exercises. Okay, the next exercise we're going to do, remember this one? What was that? Three, the third one? Three. Okay, we're going to remember, the idea is to twist here and here, one side and the other, keeping your trunk as straight as possible. If you use it sitting down, you can do that better. And the idea for the defense part, if you want to use the defense part, is somebody is behind you grabbing you, okay, or sitting right up behind you. You can smell their sinister breath on your neck. And it's just finished a plate full of garlic. Okay.
All right.
I just chose the back up. Okay. Next exercise is the same exercise. Okay. But we're going to go forward this time. All right. Again, seated or standing up like this. And you see the defense, what we're doing with the defense is we're emphasizing hitting somebody with your elbow. Okay. That's what we're doing here. And you have actually 3 strong elbow weapons that you can use. Here, that's right. Here, 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 and the point. It's a point. I know. I need to. Don't need a critic. Okay, kid. That's a that goes.
My muscle's bigger than your muscle.
And prettier too. Okay, let's shut her up. Okay. Okay. Now the next exercise we're going to do. All right. Remember this one. Up and up. But that's the exercise. Remember. But we added the self-defense move, which is here and here. This is where you bat a leg away, or somebody kicking at you, or somebody reaching. I don't know why they'd be reaching. Or you got a lot of kooks out there, right?
Say no.
You don't have to slap. I do is slapping, but it's crossing your eyes, because this is sweeping.
Crossing your eyes?
The hand crossing your eyes.
Oh.
Not this way.
Oh, this is supposed to be. Oh, like that.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing it right.
We're just sweeping
Surprise,
things out.
surprise.
Remember when you hit the floor that time?
Yeah, I remember. All right, let's move on.
Now we have, I think there was 6 or 7, I forget. You have to tell us.
Your job.
The next exercise, I've had you do this before. I'll step out just a little bit. Remember this one? Remember that? Remember this one?
No.
Well, we did it once.
But you're-
Anyway, what we're going to do now to the outside,
To the outside of what?
The left elbow to your left knee. Okay.
Here.
Keep your legs straight, not locked out, but straight. And then to the other side. And here we got to be careful we don't bump heads, so please watch what you're doing.
All right, well, where are you starting?
Well, okay. Well, we're going to start with the left side. Okay. Actually, this is a stick-up. No. Some of you may not be able to touch your knee all the way down. Go down as far as you can. But what we want to do, the exercise, and each exercise time, you stretch a little farther into it until you can put your left elbow and touch your left knee, the outside of your left knee. And then, of course, the other side, because that will be 1 repetition, all right? And look forward as we do this. Look up as much as possible and not down to the ground, because you'll take away from the stretch effects. So we're doing this is another exercise repetition of 2. That's a repetition. Left side, right side, or reverse, and that's it. We're almost through the whole daily dozen.
Good.
Seems like I'm forgetting one. I'm going to have to.
That's all right.
The next exercise we're going to do is sitting down.
Okay.
Notice how quick she likes that exercise.
Well, I think we need to move on. I'm not sure, because I don't know what time we start again, but, let's see. Oh, nutrition tip.
Okay.
You like sugar, don't you?
I sure do, baby. Oh, you mean
Added sugars.
I'm afraid to do.
And that's a risk to your heart. One of the studies that recently came up was looking at non-natural sugars. We're not talking about the sugar that you'll find in natural fruits that's part of health giving, and because they have the other vitamins and minerals and nutrients.
Ooh.
But the sugar mostly in this country,
Now watch out for those nutrients.
it's with your caffeine, or not caffeine necessarily, but your sodas, your colas and your whatever kind of soda that you have that's not diet, that is loaded with sugar that adds nothing but calories. And sugar, which comes in a variety of names, but they found
I've called
that
him a few names myself.
it's a key factor in heart disease, in weight gain, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, elevated cholesterol levels. And sometimes you don't realize how much sugar is added to products that don't normally contain sugar. They add it to vegetables. They add it to fruit juices. Now, fruit juice, in and of itself, it's just, like orange juice. But when they add sugar to it, it's adding things that are unnecessary and unnatural and a risk to your health. And sugar comes, it's dextrose, brown sugar, confectionery, powdered sugar, corn syrups, fructose, high fructose corn syrups, honey.
Fructose?
Fructose.
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 Toes like in a foot.
Yeah. Or you can call it.
That's what it says.
Okay, inverted sugar, lactose, malt sugar, maple syrup, molasses. They're all loaded with sugar and added to other products, and it adds to just, unhealthiness things, especially for us older folks. So try to keep your sugar to natural sweets and minimize those.
What do you mean by natural sweets?
Oh,
An example.
Like cantaloupe. That's one of
Oh.
things that are,
You don't mean like a donut?
your berries, your raspberry. I mean, natural fruits
Same to you.
are very
Oh, raspberry me.
sweet and don't need anything added to them. So that's my nutrition tip for the week.
Of course, okay. Well, I would like to thank our sponsors very quickly. I'd like to thank Masters Computers in Lakeland, Florida, for their sponsorship. He has a shop, a computer shop, in Lakeland, Slocum Loop Road, next to Ace Hardware Store. Visit him if you're in the Lakeland area. Of course, if you're in Portland, Oregon, or Washington State, it might be a little difficult. But I would also like to thank our, well, it would.
Go for it.
Well, I also would like to thank the American Self-Defense Association in Baltimore, Maryland, because there is a Baltimore in Ohio, Baltimore, Maryland, for their sponsorship. It's one of many classes that we have across the country. Mike Pereira, too. He's also in Baltimore. He was a sponsor for us for a while. We'd like to recognize him. But, well, we need sponsors. We need to know where we're at.
Yeah, we're on our 10th show, and there's 12 to the season. So I'm not sure there'll be a season 2 unless we get more sponsors. So, I will definitely have the next 2 weeks. And after that,
Well,
depends.
we'd also like to know what you would like to see for older folks, on our shows. If you'd like to see something, we're thinking of having a lady from a costume company come in. Maybe she might be here. We also have music people who might be coming in the future.
We have a Facebook page for the show out there, Not Too Much Comedy. We would love to have you respond on there on what you would like to see. And also there are forms on there if you'd like to offer sponsorship. We would love to hear from you. And we're pretty much coming to a close. And the thought for the week.
Oh, well, I would like to tell a story about when I was a backpacker on the Appalachian Trail. Well, I was a regular backpacker on the Appalachian Trail out of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, the famous battlefield. Just outside of US 30 is Caledonia State Park. That was my regular haunt because there's a ranger station there that a person could leave their cars parked. And I'd hike the Appalachian Trail either north or south for a weekend, or if it's a 3-day weekend, I would take the whole 3 days and it just keep up my my jungle faculties. That we used to go on long walks through the jungles of Vietnam. But that's where I got the idea of the feeling that Appalachian Trail was kept me in good shape, because immediately after we parked the car in Caledonia State Park, you climbed a mountain, and either side, north or south, you were between mountains there, and I would hike up. A good hike for any backpacker would be about 20 miles. Anything less than that would be a disappointment, which I disappointed myself many times, but I went as far as I could. Through hikers today.
Did you always go by yourself?
I've been by myself. I've been with groups. There's a church group where we were like 30 people. And what we did there, there was another location. I would park where I just said, at Caledonia State Park. They would park at someplace else south, and we met on the top of a mountain and exchanged car keys and continued on to the other person's hike, to do the hike instead of just turning around and going back. And we took each other's cars back to wherever we were going to meet at.
You couldn't keep them if they were better than yours?
No, I couldn't do that. No, that wasn't the idea.
Okay.
And I was a scuba diver at one time.
Are we just going to go on and on?
I have no idea. I'm waiting for the signal.
We're way past. Okay, well, I've got things to do today, Carl, so I'm going to give my tip of the day, and you're free to go on all day, I guess. But the thought for the week is what I wanted to say. And my thought to the week is that we can't be controlled. We can't control others, but we can control and create our own reality.
We can't even control this show.
I certainly can't control you, Carl. But I can control myself, and I am going to say I have enjoyed this show, and I am saying goodbye. So if you're going to go on, I'm just going to excuse myself.
Well, no, I'm going to give the tip of keep smiling, keep exercising, and stay healthy. Smile. We're smiling.
It's done. We have a picture now. Goodbye.
Oh, goodbye. Oh, boy.
I have no idea.
This program was brought to you by the Internet Broadcasting Organization, setting the standard for new media broadcasting.